time tracking. I want to talk a little bit about what we've changed and why we have changed it. I think it's always really important to give people an understanding of what was the impetus for making the changes. We'll talk a little bit about the timesheet approval functionality, which particularly is new in the latest release, some of the reporting you can do, and then at the end, we've got a sneak bonus peek of the difference functionality, which is not to do with timesheets, but is also new in version 8.7. This is the feature that people who particularly do a lot of requirements engineering or requirements management in the Spira platform have asked for many years. And we're very excited to actually add this functionality across the system. So with that, let's escape from PowerPoint and let's look into the live system. The question, first of all, is why did we change timesheets and what did we change? Spira has had time tracking in a limited way for a while. And traditionally, in the old functionality that we had in Spira, you could look into the system, and if you had users who, let's say, were assigned tasks or incidents, so if we go into the artifacts and we go to an incident, and let's say it's this incident here, it's an enhancement to support Ubuntu flavor of Linux. In an incident, we can estimate the effort. And when we change the incident into a different status, a user could put in the actual effort and track the remaining effort. And the original timesheet function, and the same thing is true for tasks that live under requirements, the functionality there was very limited. If you put 5 hours in the timesheet, in the old timesheet, it would simply add the time on to the actual effort for the task or the incident or both, depending what you were logging. And it would appear in the history as a change because of the value. The old value might have been the actual effort I've spent is 5 hours. On Tuesday, I spent 2 hours more, and on Wednesday, I spent 2 hours more again. It would show that the value went from 5 hours to 7 hours to 9 hours. And you could see in the change date what day the change was made, but we had no way of tracking or telling you when was the time spent. So if you put in 2 hours, if you had spent 2 hours on a Monday, 2 hours on a Tuesday, and 2 hours on a Wednesday, there was no way of specifying what day that time was spent on, which means that when you start to do reporting or any kind of burn down analysis, you very quickly realize you can't actually track when the time was spent, how much time that person had available, and what tasks were they working on that day. And we have clients that are using Spira to do their project management, as well as their testing and requirements management, and they need the ability to have more accurate time tracking. The other thing is they wanted to use the time tracking functionality to assist in working with their customers and potentially billing for time. So they need to know how much time was spent in a given day across all the tasks, and also be able to aggregate them across specific tasks to give to a customer to be able to invoice them for time, or at least to be able to report on. Also, as a result of that, they needed a way to be able to approve the time cards, because if you're going to be giving information to a customer, you need to make sure you don't exceed any rules that you might have. For example, for one customer, you might not be allowed to invoice more than 8 hours a day. And if you have a time card for 9 hours, maybe that needs to be changed. Whatever it is, there might be, but certainly you require to have management approval. So the fact that in Spira, there was no way of seeing what day the time was spent and no way of having any kind of approval really limited the functionality. And the second thing is we've had many customers come to us because they are looking for alternatives to Jira, particularly for the on-premise, but also just because from a cost standpoint, a lot of customers using Jira are finding they have to add so many plugins to Jira. And as you know, with the current economy, cost is always an issue, complexity is an issue, and also they want to maybe be in a private cloud or host it themselves in a different environment. And so there's been people coming to us, and one of the key gaps they felt was the fact that we didn't have strong time tracking versus, for example, you can use Jira with Tempo. So Tempo timesheets is one of the most popular add-ons on the Atlassian marketplace. And so time tracking was the main thing that we didn't have that Jira plus Tempo does have. So for a variety of reasons, for a lot of customers, time tracking was a major gap in functionality, and it has been for a while. And so late last year and early this year, we released a series of updates to Spira that really fills that gap. So that's the why we have the time tracking. But let's now talk a little bit more about how it works. And there's a slight difference in functionality. If you have Spira Test or Spira Team, you can log time cards and log time. If you have SpiraPlan, in addition to that, you can also approve time. So the Spira team has the ability to do logging of time against tasks, logging of time against incidents. But if you want to have the approvals functionality, you will need to upgrade to SpiraPlan. And when you do that, you will need to go in, first of all, the first thing to know is you have to go into general settings on SpiraPlan and you have to enable timesheet approvals. So make sure you do that. I know we've had people using the new functionality and they said, I can't see how to approve my timesheet. So I can't see how to approve someone else's timesheets, most likely. And they said, oh, where is it? And you have to turn that on. So to avoid complexity in the system and to make the system easy to use, we don't have that enabled by default. It is a global setting because timesheets are global. Once you've enabled that, you can now approve time. So now that we've got timesheet approvals set up, how do you give someone that the permissions to do that? You next then need to go into the user's profile, and I'm doing it as system administrator, which is right here, and I'm going to turn on the ability to do timesheet manager role permission. So I go here, hit yes, and I hit save. So both of those two things will be necessary. First, you need to enable time tracking approvals. And the second thing is all of your timesheet managers will need to have that permission enabled. They don't need to be system admins. And that was by design because we know the people doing timesheet approvals are resource managers. They're not necessarily IT managers. So they shouldn't necessarily need to be a system administrator. So that's really important. Now we've done that, the next thing will be to log time. So to do that, I'm actually going to log out and log in as a different user. Okay, so now that I'm in the system, let's go and log some time. So the way that time tracking works is there are different projects in the system, as you can see here, and you can log time against different projects. So there's a bunch of different projects. Let's have a look. Wow, there are lots of projects here. Let's go ahead into, say, library information system right here, one of our samples. And if I go to my timesheet, you will see the new timesheet. Now, first of all, this is a little bit different to the old time tracking. The old time tracking, if you remember used it, gave you a list of all the assigned artifacts you had in the projects you are assigned to, all your projects, and they will be visible, which made a massive long list. So in any given week, I may not be working on every single thing. So I can go and I'm doing a timesheet for this week. I can also do it for other weeks as well. Let's go ahead. I can see all of the current tasks and instances that are open that are assigned to me across all my projects. So let's go ahead and add some time. So let me go in and say, first of all, I'm going to work on this incident. I'm going to work, and it's one click. It's really easy to do. We initially made it with a few clicks and we had some feedback. So we've made it a one-click experience across all your projects. And I'm just taking a few different ones, a few incidents, a few tasks. There we go. So I've now got my timesheets. And it happens that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are from library information system. One is from web portal. They don't have to be from the same project. Just happens to be that way. Okay, next to edit time, I go in here and I enter the time. So let's say I put 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 6, 8. Probably, let's say I'm going to work 8 hours a day. Maybe here I did 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours. I don't know how much that is. Maybe I did 4 hours, 4 hours. And on Thursday, I just worked on this one for 3 hours, and maybe I was in meetings. Today, I'm in this webinar, so I can't do work as much today. So maybe I'm going to work, 4 hours here, 2 hours, 3 hours here, an hour on a webinar, and tomorrow on the weekend I'm not working. So that's my timesheet. Hit save. And just to even note, this is a draft timesheet because I've enabled approvals. If I didn't enable approvals, it would already be live. Even though it's a draft timesheet, we do post the time immediately once I submit it. So I'm going to submit it. Yep. It's submitted. So now that it's been submitted, I can, I'm done. I, as the, the time logger, the person who's doing the work is done. You can see that I've got nice totals at the bottom. 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 3 hours, 7 hours. You can see your daily count across all your tasks and incidents. You can also see your artifact total for the week as well. So you get a vertical and a horizontal set of totals. If you want to see previous timesheets, I don't think I have any. Oh, I do. I did it from a previous demo. There you go. You can see different. Oh, actually, no, that's this one. You can see all your timesheets. So if I've logged time for the next week or the week before, then you can see those as well. So that's really important. You go in here and you can log time for different weeks, obviously, and you can then see them all here and click on it and it loads the timesheet. So that's how you log time. Now, as I mentioned, when you log the time, we don't wait for the approval. It is going to post the time immediately. So if I go to this task here and I go to the history table, you will see the actual effort has gone from 0 hours to 7 hours. On the artifact, we only post the bulk change for the time card. The time card as a whole increased it by 7 hours. And you can see if you go to the overview, actually, actually, let me start the task. You'd see there are 7 hours. So it was estimated as a 6 hour task. 7 hours has been spent. And on the task page, you can enter in the remaining effort. Currently, you do this on the task, not on the timesheet. And if I want to specify how much time is remaining, I can hit the save button, and that will update the percentage complete. Now, one thing you're also going to notice, you're going to say, well, wait a second, the actual effort is editable here. Shouldn't it be not editable? Great, that's a great question. I'm obviously doing this just for a demo today. In real life, you would want to go into the workflow if you're using time cards on a particular project, and you would go into the workflow and you would disable the actual effort field, make it read only in the workflow for all stages, or at least for stages where you want it to be. And that way, that will force a person to have to use the timesheet. So that's really important. If you want to allow a manager to override things in certain statuses, you could decide to allow it to be editable in certain states as well. That's up to you. But it's controlled by the workflow, not the timesheet. So you should make the workflow, make that field read only, and then it would be entered solely by the timesheet. Now, as for right now, as I mentioned, you have to enter the remaining effort here on this screen, not in the timesheet, because obviously it's not done by day. Based on feedback from customers and users, we may add that functionality back in some way. But again, it's different because this is done by day, that is done by artifact. So we want to get your feedback on that. Now that's a draft timesheet, and based on talking to customers, they said that they really wanted the functionality so that even though the approver might reject that timesheet and might require changes, which would then require them to update it. They didn't want to have to wait for that approval. They wanted the change to be made live in the artifact for reporting purposes. So again, that was the requirement we built to. That was based on consultation with several customers. If you feel that's maybe a different option you'd like, again, let us know. Always happy to understand different ways of using this functionality. Now that's a draft timesheet. How do I, as a timesheet manager, approve? Well, to do that, I'm going to need to log out. And I'm going to log back in as my administrator. As I said, I don't have to be administrator, I just have to be a timesheet approver. And if you go to enter the menu, you'll notice in the enterprise view until now was solely a place where you saw dashboards. So if this is a system-wide functionality that doesn't global functionality that doesn't require you to be a system administrator. So it currently gives you a company-wide view of the entire system, all the projects, all the programs, all the portfolios. But there was nothing else you could do. Well, we've now got in this artifact menu a new drop down saying timesheets. And over time, we imagine there'll be other functionality here as well, as we add more and more enterprise-wide global features that people need across all projects. But for right now, we have timesheets. So if you go to timesheets, that's where you can see the timesheets that need approval. So let's say I look at that timesheet, I click on it, and it's more fun to reject it. Approving means it just gets approved. So that's boring. Let's go and reject it and say, why do we reject it? Let's say that on Thursday, he only billed 3 hours, which seems a bit suspicious. What happened? Why so little time spent on, was it Wednesday? No, Thursday. And we'll reject it. Yes, it's rejected. Okay, so now I'm going to log out and I go back into my timesheet. And I see a rejected timesheet. Look at that right here. I can see all my timesheets, but this is the one I'm working on right now, so it's rejected. And I see the comment in a nice little bubble. So I'm like, he's got a good point there, right? Well, actually, you know what? I forgot. I was doing a project management task for someone, and that was what I did on Thursday. So I'll add that to the timesheet. It's a different project. That's why I forgot about it. And so I'll add 3 hours more time here. Save that. And now I'm going to resubmit it. Yeah. Okay. That's also going to now post additional time against that particular task in that particular product, which is great. And so if I now log out I now log back in as the timesheet approver role person. And I go back into not my timesheets because it's actually the enterprise view. And I go to timesheets. I would go in here and I approve it. And that's it. So that's how I would create timesheets, approve it, reject it, and also give feedback. So that's the kind of life cycle of a timesheet. And as I mentioned it, we showed it posting time against an incident. It also would post time against a task. And if you wanted to see that, you can go into the artifacts and see that pretty easily. The other thing I wanted to mention then is reporting. So before we take Q&A, I'll just show some of the reporting. Timesheets are available in the system. They're in our reporting database. You can write custom reports to access them. They obviously post time against artifacts. If you go to our knowledge base on the support website, you will see we've got a lot of custom reports, and there are some specifically around timesheets. Timesheets, there we go, timesheets. So there's some different reports. I'm going to show you one of the reports we have that's quite cool. And it's the report, it's called where's it gone? It's called the timesheet billing report. So this is a custom report that's in that knowledge base, and it basically creates a timesheet, adding all the time up by customer for a particular user. So let's say you've got a customer and you've got multiple projects with them, and you want to be able to invoice them for time spent. That's quite a common need. And so what you can do is you can report on that pretty easily. So to do that, I'm going to go into a project. I'm going to go into reports. I'll show you how I set this up afterwards, but I want to run it first of all. And it's a timesheet billing report. I'll do it in Excel. And the report generates a output that looks like this. That's the HTML version, and that's the Excel version. And what it's doing is it's giving us the time spent by day for what's called an account. And this is because we had some customers that wanted to be able to track time against specific accounts by a specific project. So let's say you have a customer that has 2 or 3 different projects with you, or maybe they have, or maybe it's products that cover different customers, but the tasks are assigned to different customers. What we did for this example is we created custom fields in those 2 different projects. So we went into the projects, which was timesheet project 1 and timesheet project 2, and we created a custom property on tasks right here called billing account. And we populated that in both projects, and we created a list of values like this, account 1 and account 2. And then we went into the tasks associated with those particular projects, task 1, 2, and 3. And if I show the account field like that, we basically added accounts for them. So we actually have the ability to see the accounts. Oops, I hit it. There we go. Account 1, 1, and 2. So that when you report time against these different tasks, you can now roll up that time across multiple projects by account. So it shows an example of where you want to be able to report time and slice it, not by the project, which of course you can do as well, but to slice it across projects by a billing account. And so that way you get a report in Excel or HTML that looks something like that, letting you see the time spent per day rolled up to an account across the projects that use that account. So that's an example of some of the reporting you can do. Other reports you can do will be just a straight timesheet report, which will be timesheets and timesheet entries. That's another custom report that's available right here, and that would generate something that looks more like this. This is giving you the time for a specific project, and you can see the time spent by day, by artifact, by project. So this is really useful when you want to be able to report at the day level. If you just want to get a total amount of time spent on a task or an incident, you can just use the standard reports for the incidents and tasks because we're adding them all up onto the task. So if you go to a task, you can obviously you can see the average, the total estimated and actual efforts right here anyway. So the total for the task is always available on the artifact right here, and is in the history right here. But if you want to be able to report on it by day, you can use one of those 2 custom reports to either just give you the sum of time spent by day, by artifact, by project, or if you want to slice it across accounts, across multiple projects, we've got some examples. And if there are other examples of data you want, please let us know. We can create more custom reports. We have these 2 in our knowledge base based on what customers have told us. If there's other examples of the ways you want to slice and dice the timesheet data, let us know. And those artifacts are available in the report center. And if you ever want to know about how you can generate different types of reports, go to our reporting knowledge base in SpiraDocs, and you can see all the available report tables right here, and they're listed under time tracking and timesheets. So there's timesheets. Every timesheet has a report entry, and then each entry of a timesheet is here. That's a particular time entry. The statuses, timesheets, and we've even got a roll-up view called timesheets with entries. That's what I've been using in my reports, and that's a grouped view that takes the timesheets and the entries together into a single view, and that makes it a much easier one to query against. So in fact, if you're going to write custom reports, I recommend you just use this single view that does all the hard work for you, and that's what we're using in our custom reports I demonstrated. Okay, before we go into our bonus topic of difference functionality, let's look at the Q&A and see what we have. So first of all, let's see what questions we have. Okay, first question. What if I have Spira test? Well, sorry, I should say, what about Spira? And I don't have the enterprise view. Good question. So in Spira test, I made a mistake in my earlier statement. You don't have time tracking at all. Time tracking is only in Spira Team on Plan because there's no tasks actually even in Spira test. So Spira Team and Spira Plan both have the time tracking functionality, but if you have SpiraPlan, you have the time tracking and time approval functionality. And just to, in case people ever get confused, because I know there's a lot of functionality that's different, if you go to the compare additions functionality, you will see that. And you can see that the different functionalities right here. And if we look at time tracking is not in Spira Test. It is in Spira Team, but time tracking approvals is only in SpiraPlan. So that's the difference in functionality there. That's the one I see in the chat. Let me look at the questions. Q&A. I don't see any questions. So if you raised your hand earlier and you had a question, please write it in the question and answer box. Happy to answer that. And that was the one we had in the chat. Okay. So that's the time tracking functionality. It integrates with, of course, the rest of the functionality we have in Spira, planning, testing, tracking, all that good stuff. But the other bonus topic I wanted to mention, which has nothing to do with time tracking, but did come out in Spira 8.7, is the functionality around difference viewing. And you're like, what does that mean? What is difference viewing? Okay, so let me explain what that is. So if I go to one of our sample projects, and let me actually go to one that's got some text. Let's see. A lot of these have dummy text in them, but let's see. This is one here. So we've got yeah, this is good. We have a requirement that has a title and a description. And let's say I change the description and I say we need to have a reporting page. Instead of saying we need to have a reporting page, I say we need to have a robust BI analytics functionality. And I save that. And maybe I say, well, these ideas are a bit general. Let's talk about better ones. Let's say we need a way to slice and dice the data, and And the second idea would be, well, let me save that. And the second idea might be, maybe we need a way to generate CSV and Excel files. Okay. If I hit now, in the previous version of Spira, if you did that, then and you went to the history, you would see the old value and the new value. And it would be, I mean, these are quite small blocks of text, obviously. But again, if it was a large paragraph or two, you have old paragraph, new paragraph, which is not very useful. And especially if you're used to maybe more traditional requirements management tools like doors, that can be a little bit taking something to get used to. So we added this functionality. We already had functionality, ironically, in the code management. So if I just digress for a second, if we go into source code and we go to some code and we look at the history of the code, like here, we've had the ability to look at this, the code functionality, the differences for a while. We've got this nice unified view where I can see what was added, what was removed, what was changed. I've got the split left and right view. I can do the same thing. Very nice. We've had that functionality for years, but we never had it over in the rest of the system, but we do today. So what we've done today is you can now see exactly what I changed really clearly that you can see I removed the words reporting page because it's in red or pink. And you can see that I added in green, robust BI analytic functionality. You can see I removed idea one and replaced it with the correct bullet. And you can see I removed idea two and did the same thing. It's really clear what I did. Now, obviously, this is simple text. I probably could have done that without the colors, but it is still nice. But imagine that's a paragraph, a significantly large paragraph of text with a few word changes. You wouldn't find it very easily. It was really unusable. This is so much better. And we're doing that not just for the description field, but for any of the text fields. So now you've got this functionality across all the text fields. And it's not just in requirements. It's in test cases, it's in defects, it's in tasks, it's in documents, it's this whole system wide. So anywhere you have a history tab now, you have this functionality. And this is super cool. And that's available in 8.7, Spira Test, Spira Team, SpiraPlan. You all get it, all versions of the system. So I think time tracking obviously is a more niche function for the Spira Team and SpiraPlan users. But for this, we've added it to all products editions, and it's available in 8.7. And I'm super excited about it. I mean, I love this. I love time tracking. This is cool too. And I think for a lot of our users that use the system a lot, this is something we've asked for a while. And I'm so happy the product team were able to give it to us and squeeze it into 8.7. So it's really good. Thanks again for watching today's webinar. I hope we see you at a future event. Thanks for attending.